Liberal Democrat Layla Moran's family are from Palestine, and Alex Sobel's family come from Israel, and they join us now. A moment of unity, Layla and Alex, which is absolutely vital at the moment. What is your message right now in the middle of so much division?
I mean, this isn't the first time Alex and I have worked together on this issue, but we felt it was really important to come together now and show that actually, first of all, you can, on the face of it, be on so-called different sides of this, but we're not on that side. We are on the side of humanity. We are on the side of bringing people together, and we're on the side for a solution, because certainly from my perspective, this is now 4 generations of hurt. This is my mother. My grandmother, who's 94, is now continually triggered. She remembers this stuff starting when she was 12. And we've had enough. We want now to point people to what is going to be at the end of this this atrocity that is unfolding in front of us, which started with an atrocity on October the 7th. We have to say this is the last time, and where we unite is over what happens next, a cessation of violence, but also a final resolution to a 75-year-old conflict, which ends in 2 states for 2 people living in dignity, without fear, and with secure borders.
Alex, we have seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks in the Labour Party divisions opening up, which Keir Starmer has been trying to handle. It feels as though this issue has become very polarised, and Israelis understandably hugely angry and upset about what happened with the Hamas attack, but then we also see people demonstrating about the Israeli response. It's a big deal politically to sit with a Liberal Democrat counterpart to write a joint article at any time, but on this issue where people's opinions are so strong and I think divided at the moment, an even bigger deal. Why did you decide it was the right thing to do?
Because it's bigger than party affiliations, actually, or even ethnic or religious affiliations. The only real way for us to get a resolution, my father was in the Israeli military, fought in the 6-7 war, that's 56 years ago. He immediately turned to peace and joined the peace movement after the war. And in the long term, there is no military or security solution for Israel and Palestine. There is only a political solution. We saw it here in Northern Ireland. People who absolutely hated each other were willing to put that aside and to get peace. And we've had peace in Northern Ireland for 25 years. And you were involved, Ed, with Tony and Gordon and Mo Molam. And we need to have that political solution, because a military solution will only last for a short period, while a political solution could last for a very long time.
Alex, are you concerned, with your family background, about the protest that is happening on Saturday? Because the criticism of it is that there are elements within those campaigners who may shout from the river to the sea that may consciously, unconsciously be calling for removal of Israel from that land, and that may, in fact, we know Jewish people are concerned about a horrifying rise in anti-Semitism and feel intimidated. I mean, the Home Secretary has said it's intimidating and thuggish. Do you feel that? Or can you understand why some people do?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, people have a legitimate right to protest in this country. And I'd say the majority of people who go out are calling for peace, are calling for aid to flow, they're calling for a cessation of hostilities. But what people need to understand is when you use the words like from the river to the sea, if you're Jewish, that means what you're saying is you're erasing the state of Israel, that you want one state, Palestinian state, and there's no space for Israelis, for Jewish people to live in that land. And that's very difficult for me as a Jewish person, for Jewish people. But equally, there are lots of things we've seen which are completely unacceptable. People have been putting up posters of hostages taken by Hamas and they've been torn down. That's completely unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable to talk about Jews as though they're the Israeli government. They are not. We're a diasporic people all around the world, and British Jews are British Jews and the Israeli government is Israeli government. And they're completely different things, and people need to understand the difference.
Layla, you are a front-bench spokesperson for the Liberal Democrats. Alex, you aren't on the front bench, but you're bound by the kind of collective view. And your joint article, doesn't call for a ceasefire, which is what lots of people are campaigning for, both all the big party leaders are resisting. There'll be some people watching this programme who will think, did the two of you decide not to say that because you are obliged to by your political leaders, or is it your decision? And explain to us why you think that would be the wrong thing to do, because I can see you nodding that it is what you want, to be able to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we were trying to convey is, and there is now a sort of, which word do you use? And I think from the Liberal Democrat perspective, we are backing the United Nations call. We want a humanitarian ceasefire. We appreciate that is going to have to be pauses at first, but fundamentally what we want to see is an end to this killing. Yeah. We are now at 10,000. My family are still in Gaza, in that church that I spoke about when I was here last, and they are now on, pieces of bread a day. This absolutely needs to stop. But what we're trying to do is lift people's eyes to, this is beyond what language you use now. This is about how do we set the scene for not just small cessations, small pauses, but release completely of hostages, not just the children. Every single hostage without a hair on their head harmed needs to be released. How do we get the aid in? How do we get the water flowing? And I think what Alex is saying about, we have to be mindful that it is absolutely true that not all Jewish people will support the response that Netanyahu has decided to take. And equally, we have to be very clear that Palestinians are not responsible for what Hamas has done. What Hamas did was an absolute atrocity. But if you say that Palestinians are not responsible, then let the water flow. Let the electricity in the hospitals keep the people alive. Let them have, food and water, and that's for now. And then let's work together that this doesn't have to happen again. I don't want to be here in 10 years' time. Alex and I together, hopefully still MPs, but who knows? But
who
still,
knows?
Who knows? Indeed. But I don't want to be here in 10 years' time having the same conversation again under a different, it's yet another conflict. We have seen this rise its head over and over again. And what we're trying to do is say to people, can we stop focusing on what is different between different parties and different between people? What can we instead say? We want this to stop, and we want this to stop in a lasting peace that means we don't have to talk about this in these terms ever again.
So, Alex, what do you say to those people like the leader of Burnley Council who's resigned from the Labour Party?
Look, I understand there's people are very concerned about positions and language, but actually, at the end of the day, I think that we all want the same thing. We want to see a stop to the violence. We want to see a release of the hostages. We want to see humanitarian aid flow. And actually, in the long term, we want to see a political solution. And that isn't just about Gaza. It's also about the West Bank. We've seen a huge surge in settler violence and people being removed from their land, particularly in the South Hebron Hills. And we need to see an end to that. And the Israeli government have got responsibility, and the Palestinian Authority have got responsibility. The international community, actually, most of all, have got the biggest responsibility, because the international community have turned a blind eye to this for too long. And they need to not stop paying lip service to a two-state solution and put their backs into it.
Thank you both very much indeed. And, as I say, a unified message at a time when we need unity. Thank you, Layla and Alex, for joining us this morning.